deteriorating, but some of them you're also deteriorating. It's hard, you know, to give up something that you worked hard on.
Right.
My scene there was like in the 1930s, Thursday nights, the farmers would all come into town because the stores would stay open late. And so I had the lights coming out of the Nagman's building and shining on the horses and buggies. There it is, yeah. So I couldn't have done it without the high schoolers, believe me.
Public art is something that you've been very interested
Oh, well,
in.
that was kind of an outgrowth of the Reston artists, because when I was moving out west, I didn't want them to die, and they were willing to do some public art, but when I came back east, it kind of died away, because I didn't like carrying the art around and hanging it. And so, started that for the, one of the arts groups. You sit on a lot of boards when you get old, so I thought, let's do something for these visual artists. And there were places as far away as the, it's hard to say this name, something about experimental biology, blah, 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 over in Bethesda, some huge think tank that I would carry art over to, and other places as far away as Martin Stanley down in Alexandria, and just a way to get your art out there, because otherwise people don't always come to your gallery. So.
And you're involved in the public art that's being presented on the Metro?
Public art Reston. My friend Ann Delaney is the boss of the whole group. Yay! We put public art around in many places in Reston, and find that working with the developers to get sites suggested by the developer. Okay, we've got to do something nice here. So then I guess, yeah, well, to make this huge plan. So, Ann and I both were on the committee to choose the art for the Silver Line, all the way out to Ashburn.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that was real educational, because the budgets were really high, $250,000. I think that's a lot of money. And that meant that we had to review slides for the artist submissions, and had to think about boring things like trip hazards and stuff. I mean, there was a lot to it, and because at this time in history, the government had a little less money, it couldn't be freestanding, like just a piece of fine art out there on the plaza. It had to be integrated into the building. And so wait till you see the stuff that's coming to Dulles. Oh gosh, wrapped around a column, silver, like the vortexes of air. Oh, it's so beautiful. I think you have to go into where the stupid subway goes. Anyway, it's very beautiful when it finally happens. It'll be lovely. So.
And that's how many stations are, I mean, if they ever finish the stations, how many of the stations will happen?
Well, we didn't do the one at Wheelie because that was already there.
Right.
But Reston Town Center has had a checkered past. We chose someone who had worked for Disney, and then he didn't want to work with the developers. So, okay, we have to start again. But the different media, too, mediums have to be chosen. Sure. Ashburn used to be a stone quarrying area, so at first we wanted something very rough and chunky. I think we ended up tiles, but it had to be practical too. So something different for every station, but it couldn't also interfere with airplanes flying over, like many of our pieces we chose were light. And if the light shined up into the pilot's eyes, he might get confused. And it couldn't shine down into the driver's eyes, so we're going under the overpasses. So there were constraints, but it was great fun. So we learned a lot.
And sometimes the constraints actually challenge your creativity also. Like, you're like, well, we'll do this, and then someone says, well, you can't, so you go, well, I'll come up with something else.
One of the suggestions I remember to honor Bob Simon, because he was such a terrific pianist, I had metal cutouts or black silhouettes, like a man, a pianist, at a grand piano. And I think that might be what we're ending up with. I can't remember at Reston Town Center. Can you remember? I can't remember either. Okay, it'll be a surprise.
And are there more works that we're going to be seeing in Reston and around?
Oh, yes.
Can we talk about them, or is this top secret?
I should probably talk about them. I know she doesn't want to. Well, since you're working with developers, but you're also working, like in some cases, with young people, like the high schoolers, have a project every year, thanks to Marco Rando, from over on the South Lake side of the dam. I forgot the name of the lake. I live on it. Lake Thoreau. Thank you. to create something unusual and different every year on that spillway
Right.
cement thing. So, yeah. Isn't that
Well, I
cool?
like that, yeah, rotating art is
Yeah.
fantastic.
And then there are other places, as I said, where developers need to put some art, and so we're gonna make sure it happens.
We're gonna need to let some of these folks ask you some questions pretty
Right.
soon, but, you've always had something up your sleeve. What's next?
Oh, I just hope I get to keep doing all this fun stuff.
Us too.
Nothing new.
Stopping by your office the other day to pick up some of those discs. Your husband
Your
Steve. Your
Steve.
Steve does some interesting work with
Well, that's the
various.
That's as close as I got to being an astronaut. I married a scientist. And so the things that we've touched are outside the solar system now. We make magnetometers for satellites. And if you love to watch the weather on TV, which I do, that goes satellite that's up there now, geosynchronous orbiting Earth, something. Anyway, that's ours. Yeah, that's ours. Yeah, there you go. And they gave us a wonderful poster, so I gave one to Mark, so.
So I'm curious if, how has working with all of these agencies that are launching these spacecraft that you all are helping build and contribute to, has that affected your art or influenced your art in any interesting
Well,
ways?
in the earlier days, I did do a painting of the moon lander because we had something on that they kept it stable. Maybe it was the one that was stay up here, not the one that went down. So, at least my interest in space, in the arts. I was so jealous. My girlfriend got chosen to be a launch artist down at Cape Canaveral, invited down to watch it. Nothing. Oh, well.
One of the things about that particular piece you're describing, the lunar module, and it's sort of like over the moon, and when we did a Super 8 version of Star Wars in 1978.
With Darth Vader.
The world's shortest Darth Vader. We used your picture of the lunar lander as our backdrop for space.
Right.
So we had a tinfoil covered basketball to be the Death Star that we would hold out with a black glove.
Right.
And unfortunately, it was actually a pretty good effect, except for the part where you can see part of my arm.
Right.
And then when it blows up, you just drop the ball. It's really high, very sophisticated special.
I have done a few books. This is one of my duck books. I didn't write the story. It's about an extraterrestrial duck. But I got to do the illustrations for my friend who was a former nuclear physicist. And then she helped me put together, because she said, oh, Pat, you should put a project book together, all the projects you've done over the years. And because she was a stern taskmaster, it actually did come to fruition. She was the editor, and you can follow it year-round. I mean, there's Leif Erickson's birthday's even in there, fun things to do for that. So
There's an extraordinary number of activities.
lots of fun things, yeah.
I'm ready to do a bunch of them.
Okay, we'll all make something.
Yes, that's the next part of the show.
Well, should we
Yeah.
open things up to you all? Who has questions? We can bring you a microphone. Questions? You have.
Pat, I've always wondered, how did you manage to fit all of those activities into your schedule? Did you ever sleep? I mean, you were doing a TV show, you were having kids class, you were painting, turning out a lot of beautiful work.
Luckily, you keep busy, you have no time to be unhappy.
Yeah, but myself, there are only 24 hours in the day. How did you schedule yourself, right?
I guess that must be it. I have no idea. You just keep doing it, that's all.
That was no help.
I think it's something to do with the theory of relativity or something. Not somehow out of the time-space dimension. Any other questions out here? Christina.
Hi, Pat. I was a big fan of the show.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm curious if you have a favorite episode, one that you remember that was particularly memorable.
One of my favorite guests was the egg lady. She was the delegate from or representative of the National Egg Board, Asil Gilbaki. And so she would come on and make delicious treats to show us how to make edible art. like ants on a log, cheese and raisins on celery, and then we all got to devour it afterwards. So that's always my favorite, yes.
Who else has a question? Anyone?
I don't have a question. Oh, go ahead.
A couple questions back here.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. A few years back, I was on the board of the cluster here in Reston, and we decided our signage was entirely out of date. We wanted to get all new signs. What could we do that would be unique? What could we do that would be a really good symbol of Lake Ann in our cluster? And so we asked this lady right here, and she turned out the most magnificent concepts. It was a sort of a sweeping view of our cluster from a distance, and we put this on these signs, and we are so proud of those signs.
So now I'm on the
That-
sign.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Ruth Ann?
Hi, I also have a comment, not a question. I've learned a lot tonight, so thank you. I thought I knew Pat, but now I know I didn't know Pat. Pat is what some of you may not know is she's on these boards that she talked about. She's on the board of the Reston Corral, and so that's actually how I know Pat. And most recently, she had this great idea for us to collaborate with some of the artists, the visual artists and the poets, and we had a wonderful, wonderful collaborative concert a couple weeks ago.
And even
So-
handbell concert.
and bells. Yeah, we had a little of everything. So it was just really great to have all of the different art forms come together. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I don't sing. Not at all.
You've mentioned a couple of times being out west for a little bit of time. I don't know that a whole lot of folks know that you disappeared for a couple of years. Where were you? What were you doing?
We were starting the Western Division of our company. We were in space at that time. We were crashing trains into one another for hazmat, and things would fly all around, and then
These are real trains.
real
Right.
trains,
Not
very
model trains.
loud when they crash. Pueblo has a transportation test center where they deliberately crash trains.
Wow. Just like it sounds.
And then they would, Steve had automated them with computers and things like that, and oh gosh, I can't even think of all the technical terms, but then they would take very good movies of where things flew to, so that in case there was some serious incident, they may be able to handle it better. And we've always loved trains to travel on and all that, so we tried to do as much exploring in the American South. I think I must have been a cowboy in a previous life. I watched too many cowboy movies growing up, because I loved it there. Oh gosh. Went down to Cochise's stronghold in Apache country in Arizona, and just, it really felt like I was visiting who else I used to be. I don't know, it's going to be too spooky. I'm sorry.
One of the articles you shared with us, you talked about how Western art influenced you when you were out there, and how interested you became in that, but also it was not necessarily entirely
It
your
wasn't
thing.
my thing, no.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, colors are much brighter in the West. And while I did get into a gallery, Garden of the Gods gallery with some of my pieces, I like the history of the West very much. But they carried so much about bright colors, which is sort of not me. And the details of the embroidery on a native person's glove had to be exactly right, or it would be just wrong. And so I couldn't really fit into that milieu.
Yeah, he's got some creative expression.
It was tough.
Yeah. Exactly.
Any other
Oh, I
questions?
used to have long hair.
Caroline.
Hi, Pat. Yeah, so I just had a question for you about art. I was on your show when I was in high school, and I really appreciated it. It was just it was a weird experience, but a really good one. I think being a kid at that point, I just wasn't expecting that anybody gave truths about what a kid was doing with finger painting, or in the case of maybe older other paints and pastels. But you treated people like they were adults, they were becoming more mature, and they had feelings, and they wanted to express themselves. So that was really wonderful. But along those lines, I wanted to ask you, we saw some video of you working with some of the children, with some of the young adults. Did they introduce you to ideas or things you had thought about? Was that
Oh, it's
inspiring
always
too?
wonderful surprises from the children, absolutely. One reason I like to teach on Saturday mornings at the gallery is that I'll do the same project again at the Children's Center on Monday, they've come up with some cool new ways to do it, so I always steal their ideas.
It's collaboration.
There you go, exactly. And some of the pictures that I found when the boys were asking me to find these old memories, I used to wear fancy dresses and go to reward ceremonies and cool stuff like that. So my green sparkly top, my favorite dress, that was my very favorite one.
The boys.
Yeah.
We get to still be the boys, so. No, it's
Yes,
great.
reverse age.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Oh.
This is like,
This has been great. Now, one of the things that we also realized from doing this, and we'll have to talk to Alex about this, is it's quite clear that you probably need to do something about Reston Cable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marcia told us some amazing stories. So,
Also, when we showed up today to check the space out, we noticed that all the paintings that are in here feature the teacher's name under the art, and I thought that was particularly appropriate tonight I really like that they're honoring the person that is inspiring as well as the artist, and that is so appropriate for tonight with you. And so I really like that we're surrounded by the teachers' names of the art is fantastic.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What's that? Did you see them? Oh, yeah, because we were on stage. I didn't get to see you.
No, we in the back. Anyway, I still love it.
Thank you.
That reminded me so much of what I was doing.
Concert 4 or 5 years ago. I remember.